Good morning. This is Bill from out of Europa, Naples on a unusually lovely Florida Friday. I have to say, as much as I like to complain, I can't really. It's about 60 degrees right now. There's no humidity at all. If you look at the cars on the lot, there's no mist on any of the windshields. It feels more like a nice February morning than something we'd have in May. Is it April? May? It doesn't matter. May. Anyway, it's just fantastic. There's not a bird on the wire. It's Friday. I'm still continuing with the whiskey therapy, although I am thinking about giving it up at some point next week as this coronavirus thing starts to fade. Obviously, when I'm getting to the point where I'm talking about Mrs. Howell as a sex object, it's time to reconsider my options, but we'll see. I mean, there have been some benefits to it as well. There was kind of a lovely morning for me as I drove into work. Again, there's a lot of aggressive drivers out there, a lot of retards and idiots on the roads, as we've talked about before. And today, it just seemed like each one of them got their comeuppance, the ones that I was around. Well, I was going to the donuts, Dunkin' Donuts, to get, a box for the guys for Friday, and some nitwit, I mean, you could just see we were coming to the donut shop from different directions in the same parking lot, and he hammered it when he saw that I was on the way there. Thought, absolutely no way is this bastard gonna beat me there, and he just hammered it. But then he ended up overshooting the correct exit, went in through the wrong exit, and had to do a very complex three-point turn to get to the drive-thru while I went around him, and it was just joyous. And that trend continued the whole way to work. I just drove nice and easy, smooth, and people just, as they got aggressive around me, ran into problems. So far today, I'm absolutely chipper. Also, the detailer isn't here, the mechanic isn't here, Marty's not here. I've had a nice hour here at the shop, relaxing, enjoying the weather, walking around proprietarily and seeing what's going on. So everything really nice, and I have to say that obviously is very unusual for somebody as cranky and angry and irritable and annoyed with things generally as I am. The apocalypse that we've been undergoing is fading slightly, which is great. All of a sudden there's paper towels available at Publix again. Still haven't seen any toilet paper, but we don't go through that much of it, so no complaints there. Also, despite the rumors of meat shortages, I was able to get ground beef at the store yesterday, so everything good there. Now, lest anyone get the idea that I was bragging and talking about the SS Minnow the other day, now that is comical. Here's the quick story of this ridiculous thing. There is a very long story, but I'll give you the quick one. I had bought it a few years ago off a kid, an Iranian kid actually, who had bought my old first car Firebird. This goes way back. And I bought the Firebird back from him as well as this boat, and I paid next to nothing for both of them. I ended up putting an engine in the Firebird. I was going to rebuild it. After putting the engine in, my friend and I, Life, who really, again, is a genuine asshole, we got around to opening the trunk, and when we did, we could see our shoes right through the trunk under the floor. It turned out the whole back half of the car had rusted away, and like a couple of morons, neither one of us had noticed that prior to actually installing a new engine and trying to get the thing running. So anyway, I probably shouldn't be telling that story. I don't need people to know it. The boat, I mean, talk about a sad old tired sack with soft floors, non-existent transom, tired steering. I got it running so I could putz around at Estero Bay. I live on a little drainage ditch back there that with some effort gets me out into the Gulf. Used it for a couple of years. It sat for a couple of months and became infested with rats. We've got these palmetto rats that can be hanging around. They're revolting. But anyway, so a family of them moved in. Obviously, I didn't want to deal with it, so I sold it to Life for like $500. Said, get this thing the hell out of my life. Here's the deal. I'll sell it to you cheap, but you have to remove it and drive it away, which he did. And then he sold it to Chris, I think, for an extensive profit. Tracy, who I've talked about before, my lady friend, she said it was dumb to sell it. All I had to do was put something in the boat that the rats didn't like, and her recommendation was water moccasins. So maybe this time I will give that a shot. But believe me, this boat in Naples driving around, I mean, other boats pass me by and the people in there look sad. They look really concerned about me. They're probably going to do some kind of a canned food drive or something. I mean, this thing is worth what the power pole is worth on most, proper Pathfinders or yellowfins out there. So anyway, not a brag at all. This thing is a tired old garbage scow, but should get me around the backwaters of Estero Bay where I can catch a few snapper, and that's all I'm looking for. All right, I do get a little bit of criticism for being slow to start the video, so where are we at on the video right now? Oh, wonderful, 5 minutes. Okay, so I may have to put a disclaimer on the front of this video that the actual video of the truck starts around 6 minutes. And here it is. This is a 2005 Ford Explorer Sport-Trac. Now, when I first saw these things, I thought they looked pretty cool, but that they also looked like something that I would certainly hate because they would be insubstantial, worthless, and kind of frilly. And in fact, they are. Basically. It's not really a rugged truck in any way, shape, or form. It is, of course, Explorer-based, which is Ranger-based, so it does have a full frame. And it did pioneer the sport utility truck market. It came out before the Chevy Avalanche. It came out before a lot of these little mid-size four-door pickup trucks. And Ford really did it in their own way. And that's what I can appreciate about this more than anything. We got one in a couple of years ago. I drove it around for a week, and I ended up actually really liking it. Not for any particular reason, just that I thought it was kind of cool, and I still think so today. You can see it basically as a Ford Explorer front end, and to make it more utilitarian, Ford sliced it off right after the rear doors and added this little plastic bed on the back, which appears useless, but really isn't as bad as it looks. And I think it was quite clever, because, SUVs are great for families. If you're one of those people predisposed to fornicating and creating children, then God help you. But you did it, and you've got them, and you got to do something with them. This isn't a bad family truck at all, because again, you've got the whole interior, at least from the passenger seat up, back seats up of a Ford Explorer, with a nice little utility bed in the back. So if you're out doing muddy, crappy crap that you have to do with your kid, they're playing softball or something, you've got all these dirty, sweaty bags of crap. It's much nicer to put them in a bed in the back and keep them out of the interior. In fact, this is what I recommend doing with the whole child, but you can also just do it with their stuff, and then it doesn't really infect the back hatch of the truck, make it dirty, and you have to clean it, and whatever. Also, I think it's quite handsome. It's a unique and interesting looking thing, and I think, here we go, this is where I'm going to get flack, I think this could be a future collectible. Very often people wonder what's going to be collectible 15, 20, 30 years from now. I would say this one doesn't have that long to go because it's already almost 20 years old. But what is going to be something, and again, it's not going to be between the 300 SLR and the Hispano Suiza at Amelia Island. It's just obviously not. But it will be a niche collectible, I think, and, pull reasonable money beyond what just an old tired pickup truck would do. In the spirit of a Ranchero or an El Camino, or even a Subaru Brat, it just has that sort of unique, funky, interesting styling that's just outside the box from the mainstream. Take a little walk around this. I see a big hitch back there. This one is an 05, which was the last year of the first generation. The second generation is probably a better looking truck, and did come with a V8, which this one didn't. But I do think this is a better truck in some ways, and I can't really explain why, but I just think they lost some of the soul in the second gen Sport-Tracs that the first one had. This one's an XLT with some sort of premium package, so everything on it is monochrome. It has front fog lights, it's got running boards, it's got 16-inch wheels with 255 series tires, a nice chunky look. This one also has this optional roof rack by Thule. So if you're one of these athletic type people who do canoes and that sort of thing, you can stuff them up there and be pretty chipper about that. But let's start out in the back. So here it is. Here's this little plastic composite box that they put on the rear ends of these things. Again, all plastic, so it won't rust, which is great, and is very, very tough and durable. Also, you had this optional locking tonneau cover. So, well, let's get into this useless little bed. Let's see. Holy shit. Apparently, I've set off the alarm somehow. This is not working. Oh, this is a very angry truck. Oh, for the love of God. Alright. That's the first time that's happened. What are we, in New York City? Alright, so anyway, to open this thing up, we pull off this little waterproof cover, stick in the key. This is all hard one-handed. Remove it, and now I'm gonna walk around it. Oh my God, this is hard. Flip this thing up like so. Now, after doing that, it's got these little lockable things in this optional bed extender. Here it's locked, you see the green. Here it's open, you see the red. What the ever-loving... Alright, this is just... What did I hit the damn... Oh, for the love of God! I've got the keys. I've got the damn title. Alright, this morning is starting to decline rapidly. Let's see if that happens again. We may have to have this thing crushed. So anyway, there it is. Tailgate down, bed extender in place. Apparently now it's pretty easy to fit a couple of mountain bikes in the back or, decent-sized cargo. Not too terrible. Obviously, if you have toddlers, I don't think their little heads are going to poke out through this thing. So they're probably stuck in there if they can't climb over the top. So not a bad place to store your kids either. And it becomes kind of a, fairly useful little... truck bed there, not too shabby. And if you flip it forward, let's see if we set the alarm off again, and close this, now you do have a terrific little playpen area in the back. You set your kids in there with maybe hang a little mobile over them or something, and everyone's going to be pretty happy and chipper about that. I suppose you could also put your groceries and whatnot in there too. Very overbuilt, very heavy, oh my God, tonneau cover that, wow, God, is that hard to do left-handed? You don't have to lock it, all right. These little grappling hooks on the side, or, whatever, tie-downs, they are true and real and functional. They will handle a good weight, capacity, so they're all very useful, nice to see. And again, it becomes a fairly utilitarian little thing, and the bed won't rust, and it's pretty tough. This one also has that, being the premium, it's got some kind of tow package thing with a 410 rear end gear. It's got a receiver hitch there with a 5 or 4 wire trailer packet, whatever. Anyway, it's a great little, useful little thing if you need to tow something around. Tow capacity is 5,300 pounds, which is enough. I actually fantasized a little bit about using this to tow the race car, because I thought it would make kind of a neat truck, but it's just too light duty. I mean, it can do it, but that V6 in there, it's going to be a little bit stressed out, and I don't think it's going to be too happy towing around 4,000 pounds worth of car and trailer, even if it's rated for it. See if the alarm goes off again. I mean, what the... We can open this thing. Have a look under the hood. Now, it would have been nice if these things came with pushrod V8s or something, but they never did. The only engine you could get in this first gen was this 4-liter single overhead cam V6. I'm not sure if this is the one they called the Cologne or not, the one that's made in Germany, which of course would be terrible. But it's a decent little motor, puts out about 210 horsepower, pretty smooth. Some of the earlier versions had timing chain issues, but they got that sorted out in '02. And all in all, it's a nice little engine for the truck. Made it to a 5-speed automatic, very, very smooth, and just a decent, proper drive line. It certainly isn't more oomph than you need. Might even be a little less oomph than you need, but good enough to get you down the road. Especially with the 410 gears, it's going to be fairly responsive, but everything nice under there. I like the way they stamped the Ford into the hood sponge there. It looks pretty cool. And the front lights, all that, I think they use some sort of cheap Amazon lights in this thing. These Ford headlights are all plastic, and they fade and become crusty in no time at all. And, of course, you go on Amazon, you can buy replacements. I'm glad they resisted the urge to get some kind of retarded-looking ones with LEDs all over them. These look like just kind of a proper smoked version of the factory lights. May even not be smoked, but they look pretty good and really upgrades the truck in terms of not having crusty lights. In the back, they did use some kind of creepy-looking smoky things. I'm not sure if that looks like the original Explorer lights or not, but maybe they are the original lights. I don't know. I don't think so, though. They look pretty aftermarket to me, and I suppose that's a common thing. All right, let's see the back seats. Jesus, everything's unlocked. Oh, sorry. I did get a little credit for being anger for being a blasphemer in some of the comments a while ago. And I do apologize for that. It's, my mother did that to me as part of the Irish Catholic thing. They're always doing that. But let me tell you, if you're a holy roller, obviously I'm not a good person and will probably end up in a really bad place after it all ends. But I'm still the least of your worries, honestly. The least of there are much better crusades than worrying about some sad old used car salesman from Naples, Florida. You got much bigger fish to fry, I promise. Anyway, unlike the Avalanche, when you fold down these rear seats, it just gives you a little extra cargo back here. In the Avalanche, it would have become part of the bed. And but still not bad anyway. Legroom is decent. Your Canadians aren't going to be too miserable. You can fit 3 people across with shoulder belts, and I imagine once you get 3 in there, everyone's going to be pissed off. Because this is some kind of premium model, I think it has, it's got its own little climate controls in the back, so, your Canadians can turn up the fan back there and make themselves comfortable. You see it also has a rubber floor, which is great for being utilitarian. Ford claimed it made the truck quieter overall, but, I don't know, maybe not. And but it is nice that you can just hose it out, because again, kids are so filthy and revolting. God knows what they're doing in there. So you get your kids in here if they won't fit in the little playpen in the back. They smear all their crap everywhere. Well, you just hose the floor out and you're back to being pretty good again. Door panels and all that, cheap, typical Ford crap. But very good again if you have one of these active lifestyles, unlike me, where I'm just looking for donuts in my next, Bud Light. But if you're out there on the town and running around in sand dunes or mud pits or whatever it is you do, then all this stuff cleans up nice and easy, and its simplicity becomes a bit of a benefit in terms of being rugged. So everything pretty nice and proper back there. The keypad. I love Ford's keypads. There's people who really like those things. I think they're a little ridiculous, but part of that XLT package, which also gives you the power seats. Let me see, I don't think it's power seats on both sides, but let's check. Fixed antenna. I miss power antennas. I really do. No, it's a manual seat on that side. Look at the Michelin's on this thing. I'm turning into a sales guy. When you get a car in on trade that has Michelin's that fat, it's like cause for celebration. Oh, God, all you ever get are empty tanks and bald tires, usually. Up front, that same utilitarian type stuff. You've got this little pull bar thing. You got your power windows, power locks, power mirrors. A little narrow map pocket here. You'd be hard-pressed fitting a map in it. Up front, there is room for some kind of small handgun or whatever it is you need when you're, toting kids around. Weird little honeycomb design on that. But you know, again, utilitarian, easy to maintain, easy to clean, and all in all, not too bad. Also, this the cloth seats, the center stuff is very resistant to staining, while the outside isn't. Does that make sense? I don't know. I doubt it. Let's fire this thing up. Thank God the alarm stopped going off. What the hell was that all about? This year they did add height adjustable seat belts like in an old Honda, so if you're short or tall you can adjust the seat belt to fit your neck. Nice stuff. This dashboard, very much Ranger, the way it looks and feels. You've got the white-faced gauges, which I always thought looked a little cheap and weird, like, you know, something a kid might buy off eBay and install on his cluster. I really would have preferred a white cluster or a black cluster, but you get what you get. Dashboard, you know, they managed to make one, unlike Chevy, that doesn't crack into a million pieces, which is great. Nice little leather steering wheel. You can buy these buttons off eBay for like 20 bucks and install them. It would have been nice if our mechanic had bothered. I didn't notice they were cracked and whatnot, so anyway, it is what it is. You also have automatic headlights. That's part of this premium package in this one. A very Mercedes SL switch, actually. You've got your wiper stuff here. You've got your you know, shifter up here on the column with OD on and off. Nice. You got pretty full gauges. You got your fuel, water temp, oil pressure, and volts. So lovely. I presume that's oil pressure and not oil temperature. There you see just 83,000 miles on the clock, which is pretty low. Most of these things have been ridden hard and put away wet, so weird to find one with low miles. Up here you have a self-dimming mirror. You've got this compass and temperature display, which frankly every car should have. I mean, it's a useful little thing. I like knowing what the temperature is outside, and I like seeing what direction I'm heading, so I really feel like that should be done more. You've also got a place here to stuff your garage door opener if you want to put it up top, and a couple of, you know, mirrors to powder your nose. This also does have a, you see this control here, push to vent or up or down. Here's down. There you can see that rear window slides down, which is pretty cool. Supposedly, if you're sitting in the back, you got your Canadians back there, they'd be able to put that window down, reach in, if it didn't have the tonneau cover locked in place, grab themselves a Molson from a cooler and put it back inside. Also, I suppose kids would love that. Something they'll break in no time. You've got an in-dash Pioneer CD changer. Nice stuff. Works good. Let's see if it has SAT. Probably not. No SAT. But anyway, you know, for the most part, you'll be able to entertain yourself with that unless you're under the age of 30. Your air conditioning controls, a little useful center console. Remove this for a large cup. I mean, how big a friggin' cup do you need? I mean, if this doesn't do it, you have, I don't know. Anyway, you got it down there. You're not going to keep your guns there. They're just too on display. The state trooper won't like that at all. Probably better off keeping them in this thing, which I can't seem to open. Just pull real hard, and there you get a nice, deep, lovely center console with places for coins if anyone's still using those, and certainly a great place to store a Colt Python or 44. Very traditional glove box, books, all nice stuff. And you've got some airbags front center. This one does have the optional overhead airbags, like curtain airbags. I don't know why that would be optional. You'd think Ford would just include those, but a little bit parsimonious with their options back in 2005. All right, drive. Let's go for a spin. So there really is just something about these because, I mean, I'm already bored, you know, driving this thing. It's so pedestrian, but at the same time, I just kind of like it. And I can't really tell you why. I mean, it's rack and pinion steering that has nice effort. It's not too light. It's not too heavy. You get pretty good throttle response out of that V6. Yeah, seems quiet enough. It's, there's nothing particularly special about the way these things drive. By the time this 05 was made, the Ford Explorer, not the Sport-Trac, had moved on to another generation and had independent rear suspension, which obviously would have worked a lot smoother than the leaf springs, but leaf springs aren't bad for towing and heavy-duty crap. I mean, I'm not, are we up to temperature? I don't know. I mean, there's no reason to hammer it. It really doesn't do anything but give you a little bit of sound and fury without really going anywhere. All I can say is it's adequate enough to merge onto the interstate to, pass a car on a 2-lane road without feeling radically underpowered. It's just what I would call adequate power. I'm sure they were much peppier with the V8s, but couldn't get them in this one. There it is. Driving wise, you're going down the road pretty smooth. Family truckster style, like in an Explorer. You got your screaming kids in the back. You got some cargo in the bed, and everyone's going to be fairly happy. Good old vacation cruiser. Remember this Sport-Trac? This was one of the generations where the Explorer had that big scandal with the Firestone tires. Apparently they'd blow out and everyone would flip 10 times and kill themselves. It was a complicated scandal. I mean, a lot of people said it was, it was all sort of fabricated by lawyers and whatnot. That isn't entirely true. I do think there was some weakness in those Firestone tires which led to it, but I do think the biggest contributing cause of the whole thing was that these were some of the new SUVs. I mean, people were moving from cars to SUVs, and the Explorer was one of the biggest movers and shakers in that migration. And so you have a bunch of people, a lot of them women, who aren't used to this taller center of gravity, aren't used to big sidewalls on their tires, much more dramatic when a tire blows out and becomes harder for them to control. And I think that was probably the biggest contributing factor to the whole thing. So, they seem to get that all sorted out. I'm sure the lawyers made the right amount of money, and Ford and Firestone ended a 100-year relationship, and everyone moved on. Anyway, there it is. So, 2005 Ford Explorer Sport-Trac XLT Premium, a car that I secretly like, truck, whatever you want to call it. I just think it's neat, and I think really well-preserved, well-kept ones down the road are going to pull, not real money, but kind of maintain some cool value in a collector car auction. They just have that sort of vibe to them, that they're, again, Subaru brat. That's how I'm going to defend my thoughts on that one. If you have an interest, Marty's selling this one, 239-298-8000 on the web at aenaples.com. We'll try to find something cool to do next week. I do have a CTSV Coupe coming, one of my favorite cars of all time, kind of a high miler. We'll see how it looks, bought it sight unseen. But that should be good fun, and whatever else we find. So have a good weekend. Thanks for having a look. We appreciate it. We'll see you with the next one. Take care.